Hi, Andrew. Welcome.
Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Andrew.
Can you hear us this time? You couldn't hear us last time. We can't hear you, though.
I hear this chair
No
shuffling.
sound. Can't hear you. Hi, Becky.
Hi, Billie.
Hi.
Welcome. We're going to try to get most of the people on the line, then we'll start with introductions and stuff. Andrew, can we hear? I couldn't hear you when you tried to talk before. No sound.
No,
I don't know what happened last time.
So it's your cat, Patti.
Yeah, lovely.
Meow.
Say hi to Mowgli for me.
Oh,
I know she misses
you
you.
guys are such buddies.
Laura, have you got both of your girls home this summer?
No, just my youngest.
Okay.
Maya's been all by herself since about March 8th. She's up in Washington.
Gosh.
wow.
All by herself in what state?
Washington State.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Lee.
Hi, Lee.
Hey, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, Donna.
Good to see you. Miss
You do. Look at all these sweet faces.
Hello.
We're getting a lot of, we're getting almost everybody. We're still waiting for about 4 more people.
I think that's Jen. Is that Jen?
That's Nada from,
Nada.
Nada.
she's
Okay.
Marcy's friend. They're both in Michigan. So Nada came to heard about the dream groups through the internet, through the ISD and Dreamers and Dream Enthusiasts, and she joined and has been a regular member ever since. And Marcy just came to a dream group recently. So. Okay, we have like 3 more.
Find each other.
We have about 4 more people that we're waiting for, and then we're gonna get started.
Andrew, have you figured out your audio yet?
No,
I don't hear you. Bummer.
last time you couldn't hear us. Now this time we can't hear you. So I'm not sure what that means.
Did you go to audio settings next to the microphone where it says mute? Click on audio settings.
Let's see what's happening.
You know, I was on a Friends of Jung Zoom meeting, and along the side of the screen, we could click if we wanted to raise our hands.
Yes, you can.
We had something.
Yes, you can still do that here on this. That's a Zoom feature.
I thought it was a pretty good way of knowing who wanted to say something and who didn't.
Yes, you can, and you can just also raise your hand too, and I'll pay attention. That helps too. Either way, but you can use the electronic one as well. All right, so we
I
just.
don't see it on my screen. Speaker view, it says.
Look at the bottom under participants, Donna.
Under participants.
Yeah, click on
Oh,
participants.
sure. There it is.
Hi,
Yeah.
Bo. And so we've got just a few more people, and we're ready to roll here. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
Excited.
Good to be here.
Yeah, there's nobody new. Well, Patti, you haven't done one of them yet, right? One of our,
Patty's been on.
I was on the first one.
you're on the first one. Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody else has done this once at least,
And
right? Except
Marcy's-
for Marcy.
I don't think I've done the tarot. with
And
you guys.
Christina hasn't.
Did the paradox.
Christina, are you new to the tarot?
Yeah.
Right?
Right. It's my
Okay.
first time, yeah.
Okay, great. So, well, this is more of a free-form discussion than a regular dream group. But
Well, I've seen what you have done, so I'm familiar
Oh.
because I see them afterwards. Yeah,
Great.
it's been fabulous to be able to
Amazing.
see them, you know.
yeah, that's why we're recording this now.
Yeah.
Hi, Ingrid. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi. So what are you doing with your Zoom background there, Mark? Is that what you got going on?
Yeah, I'm in my garage. It's just kind of gnarly and grumpy without some kind of background.
That's cool.
Hi, folks.
I haven't looked at those yet, the backgrounds.
The virtual backgrounds, that's fun.
It looks good
They're
on
kinda
you,
fun.
Mark. Yeah.
It's like you're in an abstract painting.
Yeah.
Yes, it looks like you're in some kind of. So, Bo, can you hear us? We see you're connecting to audio. We can only see your name. We can't see you yet. This is the beginning of most of these groups.
I just thought of a good business for Leela to go into.
Yeah.
Yeah. Designing virtual backgrounds.
Yes.
Sorry about that. I
Put
didn't hear
something
anything.
back of me that would make me look like I'm in the tropics or something.
Yeah. Or in the Taj Mahal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got someone who's lost the Zoom link, so I'm going to try to resend it to them. So give me a second here.
Andrew, did you figure out your sound yet? Oh man, how are you gonna play the flute?
Or Andrew, we heard of it.
We'll have to make it up. We'll pretend. Woo!
Andrew, did you try clicking the caret next to the mute button on the lower left? And on the caret, there's different microphone and different speaker options. Sometimes I've had problems when my settings are wrong. So.
That's a carrot? I didn't know that was a carrot.
Well,
Yeah, I'm looking for a carrot. Like what?
caret next to mute, the little arrow.
They've never been in a business meeting where they talked about carrots, apparently.
Maybe we need a donkey then.
Okay. So just give me 1 second, guys, because I've got to resend the Zoom link to a couple of people. So why don't you start with introductions so that people get to know each other on the call. So
I can do that.
Yeah, go ahead, Patti. Thank you.
So
And maybe before we start, I just have the question for our hosts of how did you choose these cards? Like today, it feels like so perfect. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's not perfect, but my hunch is it's a perfect card for today. How did you guys do that? Anyways, I hope you'll answer that.
I'll answer that, and I bet you Billy will agree that I think the cards chose us. So,
Yeah.
Oh,
you're gonna say,
yes.
Billy?
Yes.
We just talk about stuff, and the cards say we're here, and then we're like it's perfect, and then doesn't it happen? Like Billy always says, you know, when you activate the archetypes, they show up. So I'm imagining, I know I have, and maybe many of you have experienced a lot of moments of wanting or needing to find some inner strength this week. So it's been that kind of a week. So I'd say the archetype found us, Mark. Good question.
And it's interesting because we do select it, of course, ahead of time. And it just, as Patti says, it sort of chooses us. And the book kept opening to that particular image. And I thought, that's got to be it. So here we are.
Yeah.
That's great. More power to you.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Nobody can hear me yet?
Yeah.
I hear you.
You got it?
Yeah.
Did you get to eat the carrot?
Did you
There's
get to
stories.
Did you get to eat the carrot?
Was a carrot involved, Andrew?
Yeah, I went down to the carrot and there were a number of options and I switched my speaker somehow.
That helps, yeah.
Way down almost off the screen. Someone isn't sitting up straight.
That's
Oh,
Royce. Royce, we can only see you from the lips.
Now I see you.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Royce.
Hi, Royce.
Let me see who's here.
Hey, there he is.
So good to
A
see
lot of the
you.
people on the call.
We're just
Great
going
to
to
see you
start
guys.
some introductions here, starting at the top. So this is Billie Ortiz in the far corner of your screen. She's the archetypal goddess who's bringing us so much information. I know she hates it when I do that. Anyway, Billie, do you want to say more about you and who you are, and then we'll keep going across the screen here.
Well, I'm a dream worker. I've been working with dreams for over 20 years, so most of you know that. And part of more of the further education of learning about dreams and symbolism, I got very interested in the tarot a number of years ago because numbers show up in people's dreams quite frequently. And I will often associate that number to something in the tarot. So like, for instance, if 12 shows up, I might say to the dreamer, if this were my dream, I might think of the hangman energy. So it's they kind of go hand in hand. And I love the tarot because it's sort of an archetype of the unconscious that's lived with us for a long while. So that's me.
So what we've been doing with the introductions too is just a little piece about ourselves, where we live, and a word that we think of when we think of the strength archetype. Do you have a word, Billie?
When we think of what?
When we think of the card, that strength, that what's the word we associate with it? And I choose the word courage because that's what the Osho's in Tarot changed it to courage. So
And what number card suit is it?
Well, see, that's the confusing bit, Andrew, because it got changed by the guy Waite, who did the Rider-Waite deck that we're the most familiar with. He changed it from 11 to 8. So, but this is the one we're the most familiar with.
8 of what suit?
It's a major
arcana. The high arcana.
Yeah, so it's
the major arcana?
Yeah, so there's
I see. Okay.
Right.
So yeah, we'll talk about that. That's interesting because some decks are 8 and 11 still. So I'm noticing my two are different. But so I'm Patti Ashley. I'm a psychotherapist here in Boulder, author, and I'm so grateful for everyone showing up today to have this conversation. It's been really meaningful to me, and really grateful for Billie. And you know, being able to have these conversations in this crazy time. Courage was also going to be my word as well, and I also think about intuition, inner knowing. So yeah.
Very good. Yeah.
So Catherine Woods.
Hi.
Catherine Woods.
Hi, Catherine Woods, Fort Collins, Colorado, longtime friend and dreamer, longtime tarot user, professional astrologer, no longer consulting, big reader. My birth number numerologically is 8. And so when I think of strength, I think of me. Because I actually have a lot of sort of spiritual stamina. I'm not actually that physically strong, but I'm strong in other ways. And so this card always feels familiar to me. My own deck, I mean, I have a number of decks, but the one that I use in the book that I use, Strength, is an 11. And I was born in the 11th month. So, so it still feels like me.
For you both
anyway,
ways.
Yeah.
It fits for you both ways. Yeah. 8 or 11. They both.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you, Catherine. And Donna gets to be with us.
Okay. I am from Boulder, Colorado. I've lived a lot of other places, and wherever I've been since the 1970s, I've belonged to or even led dream groups because it's my big fascination in life. I love dreams. I love working with metaphor. And my card was, I was all prepared to be courage also. I'll just add the word determination, because I think that this card, a wildflower, pushes its way into existence through difficult times. That's sort of how I feel about myself right now and all of my health problems. I'm determined to feel better. I'm determined, and I will have courage, and I will have strength. And it's not fun, but I'm doing it. And I'm proud of myself for that.
Proud of you too, Donna.
Hey, Donna.
Good for you, Donna.
Thank you.
Thanks. We're glad you're here. And Patti?
I'm here. And these glasses are because part of my health problem has to do with vision. Mine is blurred. So here we have a better view for me.
You look like a Hollywood star, Donna.
Teresa, I was just thinking that.
You're all a little dark, but it's easier on my eyes to look at you this way.
That makes total sense. I understand.
Yeah.
I'm like that when I'm in any room that has fluorescent lights. I end up putting my sunglasses on. I can't handle it.
So I'm the second Patti with an I, and I practice shamanism and write and used to perform. I don't know if we'll ever be performing again. And I've been messing around with tarot for quite a while. And for me, it's fearless. This woman is fearless to put her hands in the mouth of a lion. I wouldn't even put my hands in the mouth of my dog. My cat, you know. So that's my word.
That's right. Very good. Fearless. I like that.
Yeah. Marcy?
Hi, everyone. I'm from Michigan. I have been working with the cards since I was a teenager, so a lot of years. And when I use the Strength card, I really associate it with my freedom, with being able to evolve out of that state and become free in that moment. So for me, the trigger word would definitely be freedom.
Neat.
Yeah. Fabulous. Christina?
Yeah, hi. Well, I'm originally from Mexico, but I live in Boulder, Colorado. I lived in many other countries too, but and I'm very lucky to have found Billie's group of dreamers because it's been absolutely fabulous for me. And then this group also, I have followed from the Hangman to the Tower. And so for me, this number 8 is, I had the courage also because I follow Osho's tarot very much, but I think that there's inner strength also would be my word.
Good.
Inner strength.
Very good. I'm writing these down. Those are good.
Yeah, thank you. Laura?
I'm Laura DL, and I'm in Boulder, longtime dream worker and writer and storyteller. Speaking of not performing. And I pulled the Strength card out of the Tarot of Dreams.
That's good.
Yeah, is, power.
Power?
Power, yeah.
Yeah. Andrew?
Now you're muted.
You're
Oh,
muted.
you're muted. Let me unmute you. Has to unmute it.
Have that kind of power, Billie.
I'm in Boulder, Colorado. I pulled the card out of my Animal Wise Ted Andrews deck. It's a lion. It's the card. And I've been really enjoyed being in this series so far. It's been really nice. And let's see. I had 3 words. I just was going to steal them from this description because they stood out to me. So they were just the appearance of lions always indicates the need to assert the inner sun, the feminine qualities within us. These qualities are patience, gentleness, and strength of love.
Nice.
Strength of love. I like that.
Yeah. Becky?
Hello, I'm Becky Cleland. I'm a retired librarian and a long-time dream journalist. And
we're coming in really very distorted. Can you turn your volume down a little bit?
Turn it down? Turn it up?
Yeah, because I think your speaker is feeding back into your microphone. Is my guess.
Oh.
Yeah. That was what Donna's was doing a while back.
Yeah. Try
Let's see if I can figure out how to do that.
It's a little better, yeah.
Well, I'll speak more softly if that helps.
That works. That works.
Okay, I'll do that.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, my name is Becky Cleland. I'm a retired librarian and a longtime dream journalist and analyst, or whatever you call it. And when I think of strength, I think of myself when I was in college. I had a severe depression, and for a couple of years, and the therapist who helped me get out of it said that, well, the way I got out of it was that I could see that she had an equally valid point of view, worldview to mine, but mine was dismal and terrible, and hers was a lot nicer and better. So I determined to go after that point of view, and I managed to get out of the depression. And she told me that now that I had done that, I had a great core of strength that most other people would not have, because that was such a major thing to accomplish, to get out of that depression. So, and I do feel that strength. I feel it way down and deep and all the way through me. So that's what I thought of.
That sucks. Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
We're glad you're here.
So Lee, you're muted. You're muted too.
Okay. Hi. Lee Bull, Boulder, Colorado. Retired humanities and religious studies prof, in love with mythology forever. And a long time ago, somewhere along the line, I picked up the Mythic Tarot, which connects every card to a Greek god or goddess, and and with this card of strength, it connects it to the story of Heracles and the lion, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
I think my one word is coherence. When I feel coherent in body, mind, and spirit, then I feel like I have the strength to move on.
Wow, that's a good one. Thanks, Lee, and I'm looking forward in our discussion to hear more. So Nada?
Hi, I'm from the Detroit area, and I always love dreams, and I like this series. It's very, it's enriching for me. And the phrase I was thinking was, I was thinking like anchored in wisdom, but if it's one word, maybe endurance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Thanks. Ingrid?
Things shifted a little bit, Patti. Did we talk, Marcy, did we give you a chance to introduce yourself yet?
Yep.
Oh, okay, because I'm trying to keep track. Everything kind of shifted a little.
I know. No, I think we got it. We're Ingrid. Ingrid.
Hello, I'm Ingrid. I live in Boulder, and I'm also a big reader, really into stories, metaphor. I love all of that. I'm pretty new to the tarot. I grew up in Utah in a Mormon family, where the tarot is not something that is really acceptable to be interested in. So I admit it still has a little bit of that, thrill of the forbidden to me.
This is a great card for you.
Yeah, right? But I love learning about it, love all of this discussion around it. The word that comes to mind for me with strength is consistency. And I think that's also related to that, what Patti said about the inner strength. Consistency to me is something that is really tied to strength.
Great. Thank you. I know, like, what's my office mate's name? Christine. Like last week was saying that, I know, I work with her every day, I can't remember her name, was saying that was naughty, having been brought up in a real religious family. So I love that we get to be naughty together.
Naughty.
Mark?
I was called that my whole life.
Oh, hello everyone. Good to be here. I just love the friendship of this group. It's been really nourishing to me. I do want to own that I missed the tower, and I did have apprehensions before the tower, but I had a legitimate like family opportunity. But just like owning that piece of like, oh, but I was afraid of the tower and I missed the tower, and so just kind of naming that piece. I'm a therapist in Boulder, retired bookseller. I draw a tarot card every morning. I have these rituals and practices I don't realize that I have until I'm about 5 or 10 years into them. Sometimes I've been drawing just like a single card for a long time. And the deck I'm drawing from now is affiliated with this. I don't think this shows up. I think
that's weird.
Virtual background.
Yeah. It's like a blue.
That is so funny.
Notes.
That's dancing.
You might have to be vulnerable and show us your real garage there, Mark.
Right. I don't want to take the time, but yeah, I'll show it later. Anyways, it comes from a deck called Notes from the Pagan Otherworlds, and I didn't realize until just now, unlike all the other versions with lions, this one has a bear, and it's a woman kind of riding the bear.
Yeah.
With a hand on the head. So I was prepared. My word, given the prominence of the feminine with the hand in the mouth of a lion, I was thinking about the roar and the fear for sure. But now with her, I'm going to say something about riding the fear. Riding the fear is my phrase, I guess.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mark. Bo?
Let me see if I can find myself. Ah, here I am. Am I? Oh, I'm not muted, right? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You're
All right. My name is Bo, and I'm from Boulder. And when I think of it, I think of gaze. Just holding the ground, rooting yourself, and looking at what's going on. Don't tell yourself any stories about it. And respond and see it for what it is, and you see your reaction for what it is, and try and deal with it.
Yeah. Thanks, Bo. And hi, Royce. This is your first time in our tarot group.
Hey, Royce.
There you go.
Now we can hear you.
Now I'm live.
Yeah.
I turned myself off because there were so many sirens. I don't know if that was interfering with anybody's hearing, but it was annoying to me. I'm Royce. I'm a spiritual nomad, presently living in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And so I am happily a novice, and I'm a curious and happy novice of tarot. So I do not come with much knowledge, maybe at the molecular level only. But before I say more about that, I just want to say I'm so happy to see you all.
Oh, I know.
And, I have so many loving, warm feelings for so many of you that we've had a chance to share dreams together and hours of deep spiritual conversation. So the word that comes to me, gathering how you seem to be holding this card of strength, is out of the work that I do. The word is both presence and paradox.
Oh, nice.
And this week in my work, I was experiencing that at deep levels of offering presence as I walk in paradox. And what I presently do I'm a psychotherapist, a spiritual counselor, doctoral level. I work at Warren Air Force Base, and we are one of 3 bases in the nation that has the power to destroy the universe essentially in about 45 minutes. And it has been a paradox for me to be here and to walk here and to be present and to witness. And this week, our base finally officially opened again. It never was closed, but to us civilians and other people it was. And I walked into the missile operations building, and one of the colonels there, who is in charge of a squadron, literally just jumped up and he goes, "Royce." And he says, "I don't care about social distancing." He put a mask on. I had a mask on. And he just gave me this gigantic bear hug. And I couldn't help but cry. And that's where we are.
Thank you, Royce. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Take an exhale after that one. Okay. Elizabeth?
Can't hear you yet still.
Yeah. Whoa, where'd she go?
She went all the way over here. Hello?
Can you hear me now?
There you are.
Sorry, I have a headphone that I muted along with the Zoom, so I was doubly muted. I am Elizabeth, and I've been in Billie's dream groups since, I don't know, 2004-ish, maybe?
2004 sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, and many of Jeremy's retreats. And I used to I was a CU Boulder graduate. I lived in Denver, and then I lived in Chicago for a while. And I'm currently in Herndon, Virginia, which is by Dulles Airport, so in the Washington, D.C. area, which is interesting. And when I think of strength, I don't know, it seems more to me just like this energy of perseverance. It's not outward going at all. It's just this kind of core holding. You know, no matter what you're going on, this is the path you will continue. So it's not as sort of, I don't know, glamorous as some of the other words, but just sort of and not a fearful, but just sort of a conviction of sorts.
Yeah.
And the card that I had, I like the Cosmic Tarot deck, but it's a traditional woman, but she's holding sort of a tapestry of a lion. And this artist seemed to be inspired a lot by Hollywood. So I think it's Counselor Deanna Troy holding the lion.
Oh, really? That's good.
So, yeah, I think that perseverance makes a ton of sense. And I will share our cards more too as we continue the conversation. Tenacity is another word that popped in when, like, with perseverance and determination. I love that word because tenacity, drive, and prospect always. I have a picture of that street sign. It's like going on beyond, is, perseverance. So I think I got everybody. Did I forget anyone?
Yeah, it shifted a bit, but we got everybody, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to step out. I'll be on audio, but my laundry needs to be thrown in the dryer.
Talking about perseverance. That's cool. Thank you. That's good. So, Andrew, now that we can hear you, do you want to start with a little flute and then I'll do the bowl and we can go into meditation, Patti? That sound good?
You can do the bowl after me or before?
I'll do the bowl after he does yeah. There you go. There you go.
Just take a deep breath. We all come together in our strength and our knowing. Take a deep breath in to our courage and our inner strength. And release anything that we might be holding that keeps us from fully accessing our strength. So as we breathe in courage, breathe out fear. I'm going to read to you a little bit about what the strength card might say if it could speak. I was waiting for you. I'm the beginning of a new cycle. And after all you have accomplished, you will not be able to live if you do not meet me. I shall teach you to defeat fear. With me, you will be ready to see all, hear all, taste all, touch all. The senses have no limits, but morality is made of fears. I shall enable you to see the immense swamp of your impulses, both the sublime and the murky. I am the dark force that ascends inside you toward the light. From the center of the depths, from the underground chambers of my being, springs forth my creative energy. I take root in the mire, in what is in the densest, the most terrifying, and the most demented. Like a burning oven, my sex exhales desires that at first glance seem bestial, but are only the song buried in matter since the beginning of the universe. My intellect, light originating from the stars, cold as infinity, acts upon the eternal heat of magma to produce the creative roar. Heaven and earth unite in this howl, awakening the world. I can make every humble stone become an artwork. I can cause spindly trees to sprout with sap swollen fruits. I can transform the horizon line into a living purple slash, like a long and endless ruby. Each print my powerful feet leave in the mud behind me is a hive that fills with honey. So, as we move into this conversation today, imagining if strength spoke, let's just come back into the space and start us off, Billie Cheryl.
Well, does anyone else have any? I was going to do a screen share, unless anyone else has anything they want to share right now, a card.
Who wrote that, Patti?
This is the Alejandro
Jodorowsky.
Oh, okay, lovely.
Yeah.
How do you write the last name? Alejandro what?
Jodorowsky.
J-O-B-O.
Okay, I see.
W. O-R.
Yeah, I've been reading from each of. He has a lot in here. Or she?
No, Alejandro is a boy.
No, it's a male, Alejandro.
So I've been reading because I love the personification of if the card would speak. You know,
Yeah.
It really helps me feel into the card. So last month we talked about the tarot in general, Billie, and I know if there's anybody here that just kind of is new to the tarot that wants I think we all kind of know what it's about, and here we are in the confusion of the 8 and the 11, which is kind of cool. So maybe can you talk more about that, Billie?
Yeah. Well, it's a big controversy because Waite decided to rearrange the put 8. What used to be 11 is now, this card used to be 11, and he moved it to 8. And a lot of people think it's because of some order of the Hebrew alphabet that he decided that, and I don't know anything about that, but that's what I was reading about, that he somehow decided that he thought it was going to make more sense to coincide with the Hebrew alphabet. But then Aleister Crowley came along, and Aleister Crowley moved it back to 11, and so it kind of switched again. So
well, this is 11, the card. This is the one I read about. This is the Marseille Tarot, right? Yeah.
And there she is with the lion. She's opening, the woman is opening the mouth of the lion. So that is the strength card in that deck.
And this was 11. I think this deck came before Rider-Waite, right?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. And I don't, there's a lot of controversy about the fact that he changed the numbers and the sequence. But so let me do the screen share here, and I'll show you a couple of things, and this will be a, let's see, shoot, now I gotta find it, hang on. We'll be sending you this PDF later, and you can read for yourself. It's a really wonderfully put together. This is from my favorite book so far, which is The Tarot and the Journey of the Hero. And this man has done his homework. He really works well with explaining the mythological references and the history of the cards, everything. It's just really well done. So what we can, let me do this here in a second, trying to get this to work. Talk among yourselves, please, for a moment. I almost had it. I thought I had it already. And you see, this is the kind of stuff that happens though when you work with these, with the archetypes. They like to fool with you, like they hide. Let's see if I can find it again.
Whose card is an 8? I'm just curious who has an 8 and who has 11. Who has 8 in their deck?
I have 8.
I have 8.
Everybody else has 11.
I have 8.
No, I have 8.
Around what year did Waite change it?
Well, that's a good. I think it was somewhere in like the early 20s or something, or the late 1800s. I don't really know exactly, but it was extremely controversial, and that's why when Aleister Crowley did his deck, he put it back in. He put it back in the same sequence.
One of the reasons for keeping it as an 8 is if you look at the Fool's Journey, the first 9 cards up to the Wheel of Fortune deal with inner things. Become the magician and master resources, get your intuition, your nurturing, your authority. And then between the Chariot and the Hermit is strength, inner strength that you then cultivate in the Hermit. And then we go to the outer world, and after the Wheel of Fortune, you run into Justice, you run into the Hanged Man. So that was one of the reasons it was at the 8 and not at the 11, which I like better.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes sense.
And 11 is Justice, is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, you're doing something.
11 in the Crowley deck is Lust.
Right, that's right. And see, there's some manipulation over time. All right, so this is the image that most of us are familiar with, and it's also, she has the infinity symbol above her head, which is just exactly like the magician at the beginning, number 1, and he'll show this combination here later. I would suggest, though, reading this when I send the PDF. There's some wonderful, he goes so in depth with everything, but he does one of the best examples of shadow and explaining shadow that I've ever heard. So that would be a good one for everyone to read that's into dream work. So if you can see the magician and strength, how similar the backgrounds are. They both have the infinity symbol over their head. So he's showing that the magician starts us out with combining heaven and earth. It's the macrocosm and the microcosm. And strength is getting more in touch with our instinctual self, our body, our human self, So that's one of the reasons why it's such a difficult one to understand, because it's not necessarily overcoming the animal self, but accepting it and embracing it. That's why she's holding open the mouth of the lion so gently. So there's the Marseille. See, so instead of the infinity symbols, he explains that they changed it to the hats. So for this magician, and here she's, instead of strength, as Patti mentioned, it's 11 in that deck, but she's still opening the mouth of the lion. So then there's, oh, and then here's the Hercules. This is what Lee mentioned, the Hercules myth of he has to get in touch with his feminine side by dressing and dressing in women's clothing. And I can't remember the name of the queen. What's the queen's name, Lee? That wears she has Hercules's club and the fur. So there's some switch there to make him understand. Oh, here he is. The Lydian queen has taken away his club and lion skin. So he talks a lot about in this chapter about how we have to embrace that other part of ourselves, the contrasexual part of ourselves, and the anima or the animas, but also the wild and crazy part of ourselves, the part of ourselves that's connected to animal nature, instead of trying to suppress it or repress it. So here's the Dionysian character. He's riding the beast, which is very similar to what Mark was showing us of the woman on riding the bear, you know. So it's like the idea of not killing the beast, but learning how to work with it. So he goes deeply into a lot of information here about, you know, our shadow self, and how the Bible and Christianity tried so hard to just wipe it out. Like we can't, like we don't want to be animal at all. And then it turns out to be that we can't deny this part of ourselves. So that's one of the reasons that Patti and I wanted to deal with this particular image and archetype, is to remind us all. I mean, I think that's why we have pets, for instance. I think that's why we invite dogs and cats into our home, so that we can be reminded of our animal self. We can be reminded of that instinctual, unpredictable part. So this, anyway, I will send all this to you later so you can read. I know I'm scrolling through this pretty quick, but the last little bit here is great. More references to Greek mythology. But he closes every chapter with a sort of a summary. So he says the archetype taming the animal. See, that's what I was saying. I don't think it's about getting rid of that part of ourselves. It's rather embracing it and taming it. Task is enjoyable acceptance of life, courage, and commitment, with all of the things that we discussed in the opening. And I love this. The goal is joy of living, holy passion, encourage, encounter with one's instinctive nature and inner wildness. And the risk that we run if we try to not accept that part of ourselves is hubris, hardening, and brutality. And so then, and this another part that makes me feel great about the way he words things. He says, feeling totally alive, being passionately committed, and when necessary, also showing one's claws. I love that. So it's like, you know, there are times when I have to use that animal part of myself for survival, for standing up for myself. So, and as I mentioned, I'll be sending that to all of you afterwards. Marcy, go ahead.
Just in my experience of working with the cards for so long, I find that like a lot of it is so done in metaphor, you know, especially with the strength card. I find that as human beings, we are supposed to behave in a human behavior and really neglect the animal, the natural reptilian brain that, you know, exists in a different category of conversation. And so for me, with the strength card, it's really, it's you know, when I said the word freedom before, it's really finding the freedom to be to be expressive and kind, but not to negate that inner animal, because I think that in nature, we come from nature, we are formed out of nature, where nature and animal coexist. And as humans, I think that we have this this idea of what the animal looks like, and it doesn't correspond with how it should be integrated. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and so I find with this,
yeah, go ahead.
so I just find with this card, like, especially, you know, with the Rider Waite and other ones, it's just, it's that friendship. It's finding that, that innate love between one to the other, and really find the coexistence and the freedom to be able to be as expressive as you need to be or want to be in all the areas of your life.
Right. Right. I think we have a desire to make everything really antiseptic. And I think that part of what I, from the reading I did preparing for this group was, you know, it's like a lot of it has to do with control. You know, we don't,
for sure.
we don't like that wild side of ourselves because we're not so sure if it gets out of control, what's going to happen. So she tells a lot of stories in the chapter that I'll send you about how that is really dangerous, to not allow ourselves to see that wild part of ourselves, because as the more we repress it and suppress it, the wilder and crazier it'll become.
So yeah.
So, and Billie, when we were talking about this, she said, you know, why don't you talk a little bit about Women in Room with the Wolves, because that's one of my faves with Clarspinkel Estes, because it's all about the wild woman archetype, our intuition and our strength. And of course, when Billie mentioned it, I was like, yeah, well, let's quote the whole book because it's all about that. But I just opened up to her forward, and look, Royce, she wrote it in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Right.
I just want to read it because it's just a short little piece here, but it says it all that we're talking about. She says, we're all filled with a longing for the wild. There are few culturally sanctioned antidotes for this yearning. We were taught to feel shame for such desire. We grew our hair long and used it to hide our feelings. But the shadow of wild women still lurks behind us during our days and in our nights. No matter where we are, the shadow that trots behind us is definitely four-footed. So the whole book is all about what we're talking about, and I love, you know, and so I just want to say real quick, and then I'll pass it on to all the other, we have so much to share about the card. What's come up for me this week is this imbalance of power on the planet and the dominator patriarchal culture, and I feel so like, can we just get over it? You know, can we stop trying to control other people and cut out our instinctual knowing and our ability to take this passion and wildness that's in us for good instead of controlling other people? And it's been a hard week to watch what's been going on, and you know, I go all the way back to my Mary Magdalene archetype is important to me in the suppression of the feminine. And you go back how many thousands of years, those of you who know history, we've been doing this for too long. And I think right now we really need our strength to continue to create hopefully a different paradigm. But anyway,
I also, when I think of the animal, I don't know if it's martial arts or Zen or a combination of both. There's something about internalizing that animal strength. So look at like a very proud animal or a dog, or even they walk around, they have no ego, they don't care, their tail is up and they're moving. So you innately embody the grace and the strength and potential danger or lethality of that energy of that animal, be it your totem animal or whatever. So becoming it, but not being controlled by it, is the main thing.
Yeah, and I think Billie, when you said we try and antisepticize, or what did you say? We try
to make it all antiseptic. We just want
Yeah.
everything to be clean and perfect and under control.
Now we have this invisible virus going around and we can't control it and everything else.
Big wake up call.
Yeah. So Lee, I'm curious if you could tell us more about what you know about the mythology you mentioned earlier, because I'm not going to be able to do the names justice. So I'm just saying, if you could give us a little bit more, I would
Okay, just a
appreciate
couple
that.
of names. The Mythic Tarot focuses also on the 12 labors of Heracles, but a different adventure than the one that Billie's writer uses. The Mythic Tarot recounts the story of Heracles and the Nemean lion. He has to, this lion has gone nuts, it's killing people all over, and it's impervious to bronze and arrow and everything that the Greeks made their weapons out of. So he went to confront the lion. Sure enough, he used all possible Greek weapons. Nothing worked. The only option was to go down into a cave, to chase the lion down into the cave, and to go hand to hand with it. And the imagery that the metaphors that the Greeks associate with that are that we all have that cave that we have to go down into and do hand to hand with our ego in its immaturity and arrogance at times, and go hand to hand with our instincts if our instincts are imbalanced, go hand to hand with the animal inside of us. And then when Heracles walks out, he's wearing the skin of the lion.
Right. Cool.
And metaphorically, wearing the skin of the lion was about having really stepped into our own integrity in the process of that going hand to hand with the lion, so that we're much less at the mercy of the opinions of others in a way that's, you know, constructive, because a lot of us struggle with needing external validation when we need to be a little better at internal validation. And the skin of the lion gives us that.
It sounds like the hero's journey, a type of a hero's journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I love that, going down into the cave and having to wrestle that. It's just amazing how these myths just speak to us still today. You know, they're timeless. Wonderful.
There's a quote from Joseph Campbell about the very cave that you have feared so much is actually contains the source of your healing.
Right.
And I've had a dream that involved a underground cave, and I didn't. In one dream, it was like, no, I'm not going down there. And then I woke up and realized that was, impressive, and I really had better do some action about it. So I did a meditation and actually went down into the cave, and it was just totally dark, and I was scared, but it was like, and I said, hello, is anyone here? And there was a voice that said, yeah, we're here. And one that said, yeah, we're slaves. And another one that said something else derogatory. But then finally I saw some light and came to it, and I saw a baby lying there crying. And it had a piece of glass stuck out of its vagina. And I said, oh, there's more of this here. And I picked up the baby and I said, there's nothing left but love. There's nothing left but love.
Blood or love?
Love.
Oh, love.
And all kinds of light of orange and pink and just warm, good, sweet colors rose up all around me. And I came out of the meditation just crying with relief. So you never know.
That's
beautiful. To have the strength to go into the cave in the first part, that's the deal. And then what you get is a reward for doing so.
Well, thank you. Wow, that's a pretty vivid dream. Sure. Thank you very much. So, Marcy, go ahead.
She hit a really good key word. She said reward. Like when I look at the strength card in a lot of the different decks, there is such a reward for doing the work. So there's almost like, you know, like when you look at the one from the Rider-Waite, the animal is getting rewarded. You know, it's getting that nurturing feeling from the woman who has such a nurturing aspect to her, and there's so much love and integrity and respect. And so when she just used the word reward, very much so with this card, there's a true essence of a reward that comes with it, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and the Catherine.
Hi. What I wanted to bring up the fact that today's thing is called the strength of perseverance. And I certainly feel that would be good to bring in at this point, because if I have inner strength, which I told you I felt this card really was about Catherine in so many ways.
Yeah.
I do have inner strength, and I regularly have had experiences that have meant that I needed to hang in there and really hang in there, because it was going to be a long story over a big time frame. And so I'd like to take that idea and embrace it in what's happening in the United States at large and the world at large. We have moved into a time where I feel I have to discover in myself the strength to hang in there, the strength to keep going, the strength to look at the dark and the light in me, the strength to go down into the darkness and bring it back into the light, especially with the need to redress systemic racism, which is 400 years in this country of that. Not decades, but centuries. And so, you know, just strength that allows me to persevere. Thanks.
Very nice. Thank you, Catherine. Andrew, you had your hand up a second ago? No? Okay.
I'm just learning the space bar. It unmutes you temporarily when you press the space bar.
The carrot.
Okay.
Oh, not the carrot, but the space bar. I want to just share. I've been sharing my inner child deck and my Marseille deck, because I'm all into inner child work, and I think this is interesting. It's Beauty and the Beast, and so it so much relates to, you know, loving the shadow, loving the parts of ourself, our wildness that sometimes we think are ugly, and you know, the Beauty and the Beast story is really about integrating. Of course, it's not the beast outside of ourselves, but it's the beast inside myself. So that is, and it's 8 in the inner child deck. So, it's not my card. Anybody else have a card they want to share? Some people shared some cards earlier. They may want to say more. Catherine?
Very, very quickly. Angela Zarian also references Beauty and the Beast. And I wanted to tell a personal story. I was a bassoonist and a contrabassoonist. And there's a famous piece of music by Ravel that's called Mother Goose Tales. And the Beauty and the Beast story is, the beast is the contrabassoon. And I have played that solo that goes very, very, very low and very, very deep. But also the contrabassoon rises from the depths and goes higher and higher and higher. And then there's the transformation where the beast becomes the man. And I love that piece of music because it almost plays out much of the metaphor that we've been referencing today. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, incredible.
Everybody's kind of quiet today. Anybody else? Anything about the strength card? Christina, you're muted.
Yeah, Christina.
The thing that I kind of struck to me as what spoke to me on the Osho tarot card with the flower breaking through the rocks, and was the fact that she was looking, this seed was looking for the light, coming out to find the light.
Right.
And I think that this is kind of exactly where we are now, in that we need to find that light, that guiding light that will take us to, to bloom and be beautiful and happy again, kind of things. So that to me was the main lesson of this particular card.
Yeah, I'd love to see that card again too. Now that you mentioned that, Christina. Donna, do you have that? Oh, there it is. Look at all of them. That's so beautiful. Yeah, look at it coming up out of the cracks. Is that like concrete?
Right, exactly. And in his writings, he speaks about that. The seed, it just goes for the light.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Not knowing that there's all these difficulties and all this endurance that we'll have to suffer, but there is the light that guides the growth.
I'll read that real quick.
Okay.
The seed cannot know what is going to happen. The seed has never known the flower, and the seed cannot even believe that he has the potentiality to become a beautiful flower.
Whenever I take a walk, take a hike along the Woodland Hills Trail, I notice the weeds and the wildflowers that peek their way through rocks. And I think that's just an incredible thing to notice about nature. I love seeing that.
Talk about perseverance. That goes back to perseverance.
Right.
That's
Patti, Marcy, you had your hand up?
Yeah, from my ghost spirit deck, it's kind of almost the same thing. You see the light coming out of the chest.
Oh,
and the expansion of life and the courage, and it looks really, like surrounding. There's a lot of depth and darkness, but yet within there's a lot of internal. It's that internal flame, just exploding out. So when we were talking about the Osho, this really to me is almost around the same analogy,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is that?
It is called the Ghost Spirit Tarot.
Ghost spirit.
Okay.
Wow, I've never seen that one.
No, me neither.
Wow.
Yeah, I've had it.
Amazing decks that come out.
I'm so glad, Christina, you have a strength card showing a seed sprouting into a flower. That was kind of the metaphor image that was present to me this morning in this stage of where we are with race and the protests. And there was something for me about the naming of the plaza in front of the church that Trump did his absurd foolishness with the Bible in front of, to name that plaza Black Lives Matter. There was something about the naming that felt like a seeding, and felt like that's where we are in this evolution of coming to grips with the change that's needed for race. There was something seeding, something sprouting in the naming of a plaza, in the naming of that street with the big yellow letters. And within those images, there happens to be that hardness of the concrete, the hardness of the plaza, and that softening through the expression of Black Lives Matters, and the softening of, kind of Trump's presence and his persona.
I heard on television, and I'm not sure where, that Trump held the Bible upside down.
I think I heard that too, and I said, does that make him the Antichrist?
Yeah, that's what came to my mind. I don't know if he realized this or not.
Probably not. Not very aware.
I'm actually amazed that Mayor Bowser, since I actually see this on the evening news, had the courage to do this, because you never think of Washington, D.C. It's just a city, but their license plate is taxation without representation. They pay federal taxes, but they don't have anyone in Congress. They don't have anyone in the Senate. And they are host to the federal government and gazillion foreign diplomats that live within their borders, and they have very little direct power. So go Muriel Bowser. I was really pleased to see that.
Good.
Yeah, there are little seeds being planted, I think, everywhere. They're taking the monuments down in Richmond, Virginia, which is huge. And I heard somewhere, I can't remember where it was, a mayor talking about dismantling the police force and creating more of like a restorative justice model. I wish I could remember what town it was. I don't know if anybody heard that on the news, but I think those are all the seeds, right? And we're all trying to.
Camden, New Jersey.
Thank you, Catherine. Yeah.
All right. Wow. Oh,
This may be off subject, I'm not sure. Something that is milling around in my mind is this. The Black man who was murdered, George Floyd, is now a major hero. Yet when you listen to his background of arrests and crimes that he committed, it's kind of too bad that we couldn't be doing all of this for a more, can someone explain what they?
It's not about deserving or not deserving. To me, it's kind of about due process.
right.
Innocent until proven guilty. So even if they've known him and whatever, it did not justify that behavior. And
for sure,
it could have, think of Maurice Daubry or whatever his name, who got shot by these two guys following him while he was jogging. I mean, these kind of things happen all the time, unfortunately.
The only crime I'm aware of is the forgery of a $20 bill. The crimes against that man far outweigh my experience of the crimes I've heard that George Floyd committed.
That's right.
And we have to also look at the whole structure of our society that made it necessary for people to turn to crime just to survive.
That's what I was thinking. $20. The man was probably hungry. Did anybody want to feed this man? That's what I thought too, Laura. I thought it's the problem with our culture that we have so much abundance on the planet. No one should be hungry. No one should be struggling that way, that they have to commit crimes to eat food.
That's the strength card. That's the animal in us. That's the animal in us trying to survive, trying to do whatever we can in order to either feed our addiction, feed our family, feed whatever it is that we're lacking that we need. That is the animalistic, inclination that automatically gets activated when we feel powerless in the duality of it. That's the whole. That's like the whole balance of the strength card is between the human and the animal within. Mm-hmm. And what triggers are going to activate? Is it going to be, the natural instinctual animal behavior, or the more evolved human person to be able to be rational in irrational experiences? Because I know for me personally, I can be very irrational at times. Maybe I don't cross the line, but I can be very rational in my thought from my trauma and my experience in life. So, some people just make really bad choices based on their experience.
This man was murdered by someone who knelt on his neck,
yes,
gasped for air, and said, "I can't breathe."
Right.
For 9 minutes, this guy did that. You can't justify any of that for any reason.
No, it's animal behavior. Yep.
Right, it is.
And instinctual self gone really mad is what it is.
So Royce had his hand up.
So
Donna.
thank you. There's an evangelical publication, one of the older ones, that's called Christianity Today. Some of you may have heard of it.
I'm going upstairs.
They are the only evangelical,
yeah,
meaning conservative Christian publication that's ever come out and took a stand against Trump. And advocated for his impeachment. And they were punished by the rest of the right-wing evangelicals. They also came out with a story about the person who was murdered and talked about him from a spiritual standpoint, from their understanding and his own journey, Floyd's journey of working in the inner city as a person of compassion and as a person who yearned for healing. In the midst of that, so what if he committed crimes? Absolutely, that's what I hear everyone saying. So what? And yet there was another aspect of him that was also deeply expressive of spiritual healing. So I just want to offer those, all of us, to become aware of that part too.
Just before coming here, I received an email that came off Facebook, and it was of a young millennial Black woman condemning how we've responded to George Floyd's death because he himself was a criminal of sorts. And while everything everybody has said is true, you know, it doesn't mean that he should therefore be murdered by someone pushing on his neck. But I'm curious to know now how Black people respond to the heroic nature of George Floyd now being made into a hero.
I feel like he's more of a figurehead because of the example of the experience he went through and his death. I feel like rather than a hero, he is a figurehead.
He's a figurehead for sure.
Yeah, right.
Right, but that's probably not what he wanted in the first place. You know, it just, if it serves the cause, they made him a hero, but that was probably not his intention in lifetime, in his life.
But I think also he is the third person to die in police or been murdered by police or others within like 3 months.
Yeah, it's been really.
You know, the Breonna, I don't know her last name. I don't know what happened, but that was February. The other guy jogging was March or something. And when I lived in Chicago, trust me, there were stories like this every flipping week. You know, Black people, or now I'm in the South, and the way I connect with Black people here is very different. You know, they're very yes ma'am, no ma'am, very kind of just trying to keep a distance and not get in trouble. In Chicago, it's more anger. In the West, it seems to be more normal to me. You have a conversation, just a conversation. In Chicago, it's a more in your face. And here, it's sort of definitely more a Southern Black thing. It's difficult. And
isn't this something about what the card says about, or one of the cards that you presented, about the seed that does not know where it is placed?
Right.
And it moves towards the light. And for me, that speaks of the anguish and the beauty of what we do not know is yearning to grow. And Mr. Floyd's life was, you know, I would assume he did not ever want to die, especially that way. And so the seed that was him became and moved towards light to produce flowers of hope and healing.
That's nice.
That is.
That works well.
I'd like to contribute this from the lion card in my animal speak deck. This is the reversed position, and I think it applies to our country and our collective consciousness right now. as well as our individual challenges. But it says, lion, when reversed, often reflects we are trying to force issues which will most often result in failure. Being too rigid, inflexible, too willful, or too domineering will do nothing but complicate your life situation and issues surrounding you. Goals will not be accomplished by doing so at this time. Reverse lion demands a balance between assertion and patience. This is not a time to lose nerve in regards to what has been set in motion, nor is it a time to surrender. Remain firm and patient, and don't be afraid to roar if you feel threatened. Then, in my imagination, like, this is what's happening a little bit, is there's a roar coming out. This individual situation with Floyd just seems to be the way that it's being expressed to me. Like, if we looked at it as a dream, you know, there's be kind of like in my imagination, the shadow of the United States has been pushed down, but now is a time for maybe something to happen, like the togetherness and the strength and the working together to sort of bring those issues out. And that's what this surface event is maybe a little vehicle for. But I mean, Black communities have been really hit hard by this pandemic, much harder than white communities. And so it's showing the endemic problems that we have. So I think this is about more than just this one individual. I think it's maybe about this collective shift and individual shifts within our own selves, about not keeping a knee on the shadow part of ourself. And
I think, you know, it's like Catherine was saying and Elizabeth was saying earlier, it's like this stuff has been going on forever. It's the thing that's changed is, number one, almost everybody has a phone that has a video camera and a photo and a still camera. So we're hearing about it a lot more than we used to. It's become more and more in our consciousness because we have proof, we have evidence. You know, I mean, somebody could have witnessed that and not had any video of it, and nobody would have believed that a cop could do that.
So I think hard to believe. It's so ugly.
Yeah.
I've been noticing Donna's hand, just her fingers
okay.
up and up and up.
I'm sorry,
I
Donna.
want to be sure that we get to her at some point.
Yeah, go ahead, Donna.
Oh, that's all right. Go ahead, Billie. You were saying.
Well, I was just saying that was pretty much what I wanted to say, was that I think it's coming to our consciousness more clearly because we have physical evidence that we can look at and see, which is it's already been happening. It's almost like it's like the Me Too movement. You know, when the Me Too movement started, I thought, well, what's new about that? You know, that's really been going on always. That sexual harassment behind the scenes, and you know, women being forced into positions in order to you know, further their career, whatever it might be, or date rape situations, all these things. It's like, but it came out more into our consciousness when there was more of an organized effort to bring it to awareness. And I think that's what we're experiencing now. There's a more organized effort to say, look, this is happening and it's always happened. And this is how bad it can get.
And we all know that it's time to take action. But what is the action that we should take? What do we do?
Well, that's a big question. Let's go to what Nana, I know it seems like I watched your hand like peek up like
that's okay.
A long time.
So it reminded me, Donna, when you were saying that about the crimes, how it's a double standard for the African American community. And I remember before this happened, an interview with Marbury's mother. And there was a video of him in his jog one day walking through this house, not committing a crime. It turns out he was going to drink some water because there was a faucet there. But she said, I haven't looked at the video and I'm afraid to. And I think, I think it's a lot of like just feeling like there's no room for any kind of any mistakes. So the Black, the politicians or whatever, they have to be absolutely untainted. And then you juxtapose that with Kelly Loeffler, who had that, meeting and then sold off millions of dollars worth of stock and benefited from it just before the pandemic. And the charges were just dropped. And there were a few others too. And stuff like that happens, all the time. But somehow that crime is just like, no big deal. So somebody buys meth and it's like, oh, that's nasty. But it's not really hurting anybody other than, the person who's trying to mask their own pain. That's all.
Well, that was important. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Catherine?
I'm going to say it. It's systemic racism. And Trevor Noah made it very clear in a thing that he did this week, where he's talking, and a number of other people, not just him, where they're talking about the word looting and having me begin to get that looting, if I'm a pushed down, starved of oxygen person of color, it looks different if I loot. And I like what my friend said about survival. Can't remember your name, sorry, but yeah, you just were talking about survival. And then looting on a large scale. The way that we looted energy from African Americans since 1600. And that's systemic. And this nation has not dealt with this yet, but I will say hopefully we're getting closer to a tipping point. And I'm glad to be alive, and I'm glad to be listening to people of color coming forward and saying their truth, because I need to learn from it. Thank you.
So Becky, you had something?
Yes, I think the only real thing we can do about racism is come from ourselves and our own dealing with people around us, and to be as open and loving as possible with all the people we meet, no matter the color or the shape or size or whatever they are. That's a necessary thing. And it's something personal we can do. And if more and more people did that personally, a great lot of help would be provided, I think, for the country in its troubles.
I kept hearing Jeremy this week saying it's not speech ripe yet. So to me, I feel like it's a paradigm shift that's never happened before, and I don't know how long it's going to take, probably lifetimes, but trying to language, like the answer to Donna's question, well, what do we do? And I kept hearing Jeremy say it's not speech right. I don't think there's language. I couldn't come up with language of what we need to do to balance this horrible imbalance of power that's gone on for way too long.
Let me quickly talk in about looters. I think people were outraged here, grieving protester, and there's looters. And honestly, I was neither surprised by the looting nor the tear gas nor any of that. We lived through the 60s and the 70s. These kind of riots pop up periodically. there's always a group that will try to, opportunists that will try to benefit from it. In fact, I read quite a bit of stuff that white supremacists were infiltrating cities like Minneapolis and were deliberately starting the violence and looting and then disappearing when the police showed up. So one thing I think Trump was very deliberately doing is trying to incite a race war with, dog whistles like looters, Second Amendment rights, blah, blah, blah. I think he was definitely trying to go and to incite full out violence.
Well, we're at a place where we have to bring it to an arbitrary close. We have Jeremy's arbitrary close, meaning that there's no way we can ever close this up completely. These discussions will continue to blossom and open, and more things will come to us after the call. So I invite all of you to email me if you want to give any more information. Lee, go ahead.
One of the rallying cries has been stronger together. And I think one of the things that the isolation that we're all in is teaching us is how much our strength comes from our interrelationships with everybody that we love, like this group. And so I just wanted to add to our words about strength, relationship or connection.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah,
that's beautifully said, Lee. Thank you. I think exactly, we have been set into this isolation situation for months. I guess it's 3 months now, right? I think we're in summer. It's hard for me to keep track, but it seems as though there's definitely parts of ourselves that we're discovering that we didn't know about before, and things about our ability to relate to those people closest to us. I agree completely. It's opening up something that I wouldn't have seen if I hadn't been put in lockdown.
Yeah.
Marcy, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that when we begin to live in the absence of fear and really use our strength to be able to be unified and to be able to really coexist, I really think it's the absence of fear, fear of everything that goes on.
I feel so helpless.
Helpless because of everything that's happening with the
because of the isolation, because I have no idea what someone like me can do to help change the world other than talk about it.
And I think that we've been discussing it, though, and I think Becky said it, the only way I can change the world is to change myself. And how do I relate to others, and what do I do to connect people? That's the only way we can really do anything. To change the world is to change myself within.
Well, and I think, my favorite quote, Donna, and I probably said this to you before, is Mother Teresa says, don't strive to do great things, but strive to do small things with great love. So I think that even us having this conversation, even us, it's the seeds we're talking about. We're planting seeds. I don't think we're going to fix this overnight, but I do think we need to definitely bring more love into everything, even in the smallest ways. I think makes a difference. And you have a lot of love, Donna. You got that. You got that.
It's just disheartening. It's so sad to think that human beings can behave the way they have recently.
Thousands of years, Donna.
Well, they behave like that for eons. It's not just recently, I think.
I've been kind of drawn to World War II stories. I'm currently reading Madeleine Albright's book of Prague Winter. And my mom was born 1920, my father 1917. They lived through World War II on the German side. And I mean, reading all the things that went on, it's kind of mind-blowing, but they made it through. Everybody made it through.
Yeah.
And so we will make it through. I hope we will, sort of do that dip in the shadow and it's overdue, this racism issue, and I'm glad it's out now. I hope something will shift finally across the board.
Yeah, I was just, thank you, Elizabeth. I was just thinking that because I thought the timing is we've shut down a lot of the world, and now this has come up again. And as we know, it's happened in many, many times, but it's really become the focus now because there's so many other things that we're not distracted from. We have to pay attention to it now. So I think that it's almost like that's the cosmic unfolding of it all. It's like, well, we have to pay attention. So that's all I can say. But I'm going to send you all some links after this because I just saw something recently that had the list of all the innocent people that were killed, like within their own homes, and like the jogger that was killed, the man who was in his own apartment, in Dallas, and the cop comes in thinking it's her apartment, and she shoots him dead, thinking he's an intruder. I mean, those kind of things have happened frequently. So we have to. It's all come up to our awareness. There's something that's the new part of the paradigm that I'm hoping is that it's no longer going to be shoved under the rug. We have to look at it. Yeah. So, any other closing thoughts?
I would say thank you, Billie and Patti and everyone for your thoughts and ideas.
I have one more closing thought.
Sure.
Billie, what you just said is that this has happened. We've all agreed it's happened throughout human history. And it dawned on me again about recurring dreams.
Right.
That we keep having this waking life nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And we will keep having this waking life nightmare. And right now we're paying more attention to some extent to this waking life nightmare. It is a wake-up call for our human spirits. And it's a wake-up call more specifically for our system that has always expressed this illness, this woundedness. So I speak for the pessimistic side. We will always have to have waking life nightmares like this. And once in a while, we can find and discover and watch healing emerge. And this is a very discouraging time, disheartening. And it is a gift as a waking life nightmare that we do have another chance to wake up.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
Thank you, Royce.
Thank you.
I just want to say stay in relationship to the trauma body, the instinctive body of the animal of the other, the animal of the lion, the bear, within yourself, within society. It is a trauma body. It is an instinctive body. And it's easy to think you want to just put a foot on the neck or kill it or throw it up on the top of your car or something. I mean, you want to be in relationship with it. You want to have compassion for that animal body. It's been traumatized. The white body, the black body of our culture, of ourselves as individuals. Stay in relationship with the animal.
Thank you.
It's like the Native Americans who say they meet an animal and they say, hello, brother, hello, sister.
Yeah.
They know that we are all a part of one spirit, and to remember that is essential. And to relate that way is exquisite and such a big help. It helps promote goodwill and freedom and all of those things.
Beautiful. Thank you. And so just to connect with what Royce was saying too, I see this exactly as you're seeing it, Royce. It's, yes, we're in the middle of a recurring waking nightmare. And the nightmare is designed to come in the form of danger. And that way we pay attention to it. And if I don't do something about the waking nightmare, I'm going to repeat it again. It's going to repeat again. repeat again, but all dreams come in the service of health and wholeness. So everything that happens in front of me, I have to realize this is happening for the sake of our collective health and wholeness, if it were me. And that's the ultimate optimist within me. That's the part of me that keeps thinking, yes, something great is going to come out of this.
Anytime you have a part of a place of infection in you, it has to rise up to the skin level and then be opened and to be cleared out and healed. And this is what's happening now, I feel like. So we need to clean out this old icky stuff and heal it that way.
Thanks for that image.
Yeah, that's great.
Very good conversation. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice seeing everyone.
Thank you, too.
And we do not have a date yet. Patti and I do not, because we're waiting for the cards to speak to us for the next one. But when we do, we'll be sure to let all of you know. You can always find out more about my events at wakeuptoyourdreams.com. I have 2 groups that are running now. There's Tuesday evening groups, and then there's Thursday afternoon groups. So 4 groups a month, and you join in whenever it works for your schedule. And please go to my website and look at all the interviews, and the interview between Jeremy and I is one of my favorite things. So if you get a chance, take a look at that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Billie. Thank you, Patti.
Thank everybody.
Patti, did you have anything you wanted to say about you have a book coming out?
I know. I was just thinking, we're looking at the dates. So on my birthday, my 3rd book is going to be released July 8th. So I want to have an online Zoom party to celebrate that. So yeah, I just have some courses online right now. I have free one, Go In Not Out, if anyone wants to deepen themselves during this crisis. Just some tools, some thoughts. And I have a mom's course, and I'm working on a grief course that I want to launch by Father's Day. So that's what I'm working on.
Hey, Patti, I have to tell you that I just finished your Letters to Freedom book. I loved it. I totally loved it. It was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, you made me cry a few times, but that was good.
That one is tearjerker. That one.
Thank you, Christina.
And remind the name of your new book, Patti, that's coming out in July.
It's for mental health professionals. And Mark, those of you, and Royce, I may be asking for advanced review copy. Amazon, that's what I'm doing the next few weeks. It's called Shame Informed Therapy. They changed the subtitle a little bit to make it a little bit more talk about antiseptic treatment. It was, I'll tell you what it was, the art and architecture of reconstructing the authentic self. They changed it to treatment strategies to overcome core shame and reconstruction.
Yeah.
Correct.
So my next book, though, I get to use the art and architecture in the next book. But that's so exciting. I worked on it for 2 years, and I think it's really important book. I think, obviously,
I do too.
Passion.
We're all grieving.
Well, this book is about shame, which I think shame and grief are good friends.
Yes.
And yeah, so
They're good friends. They are.
those of you therapists out there, if anybody wants to advanced review copy, or any of you out there that wants to do, I can send you it free before it comes out, so you can Amazon review it for me. That'd be great.
Oh, I'll
Yay,
take it.
Royce.
I'll do that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you.
Right.
And
I'm a
thank you, Billie.
therapist,
This
but
has been amazing. I love doing this.
I would like to read it.
Who was that? Oh, non. Okay, great. Just email Billie or me, and I'll send you a copy. Should have it by the end of next week. Thank you all for being with us today. This means so much to me, and I love you all so much. And I felt this energy of inner strength that's woven amongst us, and I feel like these little seeds, like I said, Donna, are bigger than we realize. And so thank you all so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Billie.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Strong. Persevere.
Thanks, everyone.
You are the seeds.
Amen.
Hmm.